Get your tickets now and be a part of this historic season. For event and ticket information, go to huskers.com/tickets.
Raising little ones is a big job, and you do your best to give them a good start every day. That means making sure they're well cared for while you're apart. You work hard, but it's not always easy to make ends meet. There may be help. Find out if you qualify for Nebraska's Child Care Tax Credit for working parents. You could be eligible for a credit of up to $2,000 per child on your next tax return. Learn more at nebraskachildcaretaxcredit.org. Brought to you by First 5 Nebraska and Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstoRats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up.
But why?
Because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Ella Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela. They let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit allofiber.com to switch today.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and we wanted to give a special shout out to all of our great customers, thanking you all for a record-setting year in 2024. Now let's get the new year rolling with some big savings. Right now at Cobble, we have some of the biggest discounts in the area with over $12,000 off list price or 0% APR on select new models. So stop on in the dealership or hit us up online at cobblecars.com to get true low country overhead in action. $12,000 off list or 0% APR right now at Cobble. So please stop on in or visit us at cobblecars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Prashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Step into healing at Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery. Our team of top-notch medical professionals turns pain into progress with state-of-the-art treatments and compassionate care. Visit prairieortho.com and discover the difference in quality orthopedic and plastic surgery services tailored to your unique needs. Your health matters, and Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery is dedicated to helping you thrive. Reach your full potential. Embrace a better tomorrow with Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting lincolnteammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Welcome in to the Corner 3, taking you around the arc of college basketball. From the NAAC to the Pac-12, the WCC to the SWAC. We cover it all now on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
Welcome in. It is the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I am indeed your host, Austin Oerman. It has been a long day. It has been a great day. I'm with you since on the block starting at 2 with you for this next hour before we turn you over to Nick Sainert for some high school hoops after this. Until then, we're going to keep the college basketball conversation rolling, and we want your thoughts as always. 402-464-5685. 5685 is the number to our starter Heyman Jewelers text line. Leave a text there. Leave your thoughts there. You can also leave them on stream, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter streams up and rolling for you. Got the comment section up in front of me. You post there. I will see it. Tonight's show going to be a pretty simple one, going to be a pretty straightforward one, a fun exercise. I saw a tweet from an account on Twitter called Casual Big 10. Pick your Big 10 All-Stars challenge. Pick one from each team. Do not double up. So what Casual Big 10 did was split the conferences down the middle as they could. You got the East All-Stars and you got the West All-Stars. So I'm going to accept the challenge. I'm not just going to pick the best players in the Big Ten that would make my hypothetical Big Ten East and West All-Star teams. I am going to do it one from each team. Give me your thoughts on Nebraska's All-Star. I think we're all going to be in agreement on this one. My pick is Bryce Williams. We'll get into plenty of other teams here and some of the tougher decisions throughout it as well. Again, 402-464-5685. That'll take up the first couple segments of our show here tonight. Third segment of the show will run a little bit long because it's going to be worth it. Had an awesome conversation during On the Block with Isaac Trotter. He's a writer for CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports. I follow him on Twitter. I'm a big fan of his work. He was gracious enough to give us about 20 minutes of his time during On the Block today. So that interview will come your way again in the third segment of today's show. 402-464-5685 as we go through these Big Ten All-Stars. I'm going to name the All-Stars, and then I'm also going to put together the starting lineups and kind of go through the teams. If they did have Big Ten East and West divisions, where would these teams rank? Who would be most likely to get multiple All-Stars? And we'll start with the East. We'll get to the West after that. All right, so in the East, we'll do this as alphabetically as we can. Indiana comes up first in this list. The All-Star selection that I have for Indiana would be Mackenzie Mbako. He has been pretty good for the Hoosiers so far this year. Pretty similar player to the player that he was last year, maybe taken a little bit of a step forward. I know there's a lot of conversation around Indiana, maybe not playing the basketball we all thought they were going to under Mike Woodson, but I think Mackenzie Mbako is the pick for me. He's playing about 63% of Indiana's minutes, which isn't the most on the team, but it's a significant portion. Pretty decent offensive rating. His shooting numbers are pretty good. He's shooting 85% at the free throw line, 50% from two, and 36% from three. It's that jumper that is the question for Mbako. But to me, he's been the most consistent guy for Indiana, right? Malik Renew has been really good for them. He's taken the most percentage of Indiana's possessions, but he's missed a few games. Miles Rice has been good, but a little bit up and down. Umar Ballo got slapped with a DNP CD a couple times for some off-the-court decision-making, and I don't think Umar Ballo has necessarily been part of the solution. Not that Mackenzie Mbako's been the solution either, but I do think that he's been closer to the solution than some of these other guys. So I'm a big Mackenzie Mbako guy. I think he's a good player. He would be my nod. If I was going to do an alternate in case Mbako couldn't play in this hypothetical all-star game, I would give it to Miles Rice. Maryland, an interesting team to talk about. Nebraska's upcoming opponent. They have really three options for guys that I think would fit the category of all-star. The two that I landed on are Derek Queen and Jacoby Gillespie. Derek Queen has one of the higher usage rates on Maryland's team. In fact, it is officially the highest according to Ken Pomeroy. Jacoby Gillespie down at third. Queen's been pretty darn good for a freshman, and I think if we weren't in a world where Cooper Flagg reclassified, where Dylan Harper and Kasparis Jakubonis were going off, I think we'd be hearing a lot more about Derek Queen. Was doing some incredible work for Maryland in the non-conference. They faded just a little bit since getting into conference play, but right now Derek Queen is cleaning defensive glass, doing a pretty good job on the offensive glass as well. Not really shooting it from three-point range at all, but a brutally efficient 60% from two and a pretty decent 77% mark at the free throw line. He's taken the mantle of the best post player from Julian Reese. And because Reese isn't even the best post player on his team, I can't give him the all-star nod. I give it to the freshman, or I would give it to the freshman, but it's not a slam dunk because Jacoby Gillespie, a transfer, has been so good for them. 6'1", 186-pound junior, played and started all 18 games, as has Derek Queen. highest offensive rating on the team. It is a team stat, but Jacoby Gillespie has the ball in his hands a lot, exerts a lot of control on that Maryland offense. He shot it really well as well. I mean, he's a 42% shooter from three. He's made 41 of them on 98 attempts. Pretty good from two as well, 47 of 88, and is 90%, almost bang on even at the free throw line. Jacoby Gillespie is a baller. He is a problem. But as I look at the rest of the roster for the East that we'll get to momentarily, I thought we needed some more size. So for that reason, I'm going with Derek Queen as my Maryland All-Star over Jacoby Gillespie, who would be the alternate. Speaking of size, Michigan. Maybe it's because he's come on recently, but I think he's the guy I like a little bit better in a vacuum too. Danny Wolf is my Michigan All-Star. 7'1". His nickname is the Jewish Joker. He transfers in from Yale. He has been so good for Michigan, and really, I think the linchpin of their two big lineup. He's played a lot of the power forward position with Vlad Golden, the transfer center that followed Dusty May from Florida Atlantic, taking up the most of the minutes at the 5. When Golden is on the floor, Wolf can handle the ball. You can run some really fascinating 4-5 pick and rolls. Wolf shooting it decently from 3, especially for a big man. Pretty darn efficient from 2. Good free throw shooter. Doing some ball handling, taking some pressure off of Trey Donaldson and Roddy Gale as well. Danny Wolf was one of the easier picks for All-Star for me. And then it's Trey Donaldson, I think, would be the backup pick for me from Michigan. He has been so good from all 3 levels. Not the focal point of the team, but certainly helping tie Michigan together. Michigan State is a team that is wildly fascinating to me. Probably the hardest team to pick the All-Stars for, just because of how deep they are. Michigan State is the only team without a loss in conference play. They have gone and they have won at Minnesota. They've won at Ohio State, and they just won at Northwestern to start this week off. They're 6-0 in conference, the only team that can make that claim right now. And they're not doing it with a stud, not with a superstar. They're doing it with depth. They don't have any major contributors, as Ken Palm would list them. They have a bunch of significant contributors, though, guys that are using between 20 and 24% of the possessions. Jaden Akins has been good. Jeremy Fierce has been good. Trey Holloman has been a bit of a revelation. You have the posts and Jackson Kohler, Xavier Booker, Simon Zapala, even a guy like Carson Cooper, who's come off the bench in every game. You got kind of the true wing or forward in Cohen Carr. Frankie Fiddler, I don't think has been as advertised. I haven't been as impressed with him, but he's still playing his role, trying to find his way. To me, the surprise for Michigan State has been just how well Jace Richardson has played, and the fact that he's been able to break into this Michigan State rotation that's kind of heavy with guards this early on into his career. Richardson has played in 16 games, hasn't started at one of them. He's 83% of the free throw line, 67% from 2 as a 6'3", 185-pound guard is incredible. And even the outside shot, not there on high volume, but he's 14 of 32 on the year as a spark plug coming off the bench. I've been really impressed with Jace Richardson. And so for me, because he's been able to score the ball, because he's avoided turnovers for the most part, because he is kind of sparking those bench units, he would be my alternate. So then to me, it comes down to, is it Jaden Akins or is it Jeremy Fierce in that first spot? Fierce has been more the setup guy, more the true point guard setting up Jaden Akins, but Akins has done his fair share of that as well. I give Akins the nod. He's shooting 57% from 2, 91% at the free throw line. 3-point shot hasn't come around for Akins. He's taken 87 of them, only made 26, but he's been really good. I think the shot is going to come around, especially if the free throw numbers are to be believed. So I would give Jaden Akins the nod as Michigan State's all-star, and then I would go with Jace Richardson after that. Moving along through the East, Northwestern, I think it's one of two guys. It's Brooks Barnhizer and Nick Martinelli. Barnhizer's been dealing with an ankle injury, been some drama floating around Northwestern Twitter. He played yesterday, might have tweaked that ankle again, but hey, no fear. Martinelli is kind of a stretch 4 if he has to slot in for Barnhizer, more of a true 3. No harm, no foul there for Northwestern. Ohio State was interesting to me as well. Bruce Thornton's been the best player for them pretty much all year. The alternate would be a little bit of a debate, but I do think that I would end up going with John Mobley, the freshman guard who's come in and exceeded, I think, a lot of people's expectations there in Columbus. For Penn State, it's a no doubt Ace Baldwin, been one of the best players in the league, which means he's been one of the best players in the country. Penn State starting to fade back to the pack a little bit, that was one of the better stories of the first, few weeks, even the first month of the season, was just how well Penn State was playing throughout the non-conference. They got some work to do in Big Ten conference play. I think they'll be improved from last year. I like what I'm seeing from the Nittany Lions a little bit more. There wasn't a no doubt alternate for me when it came to Penn State. There's a number of guys behind Ace Baldwin that you could have talked me into. Penn State, again, not the deepest team, but it's really just been the Ace Baldwin show, even on their 4-game losing streak here. Baldwin is taking 20% of their shots, but using about 28% of their possessions. Some other guys that were considered: Nick Kern. You get Yannick Niederhauser involved as well. Even, Puff Johnson and DeMarco Dunn have been pretty solid for Penn State as well. I go with Nick Kern, though. That's a guy that at 6'6" has provided some spark on the defensive end. Good slasher, good downhill driver at 6'6". He's come off the bench. He's played in all 18 games, only started 2 of them. But I do think Nick Kern has been the second most consistent, second best player. And this is an East All-Star team that might need some wing depth. So for Penn State, I go Ace Baldwin. I go Nick Kern. Purdue, absolutely, no doubt about it. Braden Smith is the headliner. You got to go with him as your Purdue All-Star. And then it doesn't really get tricky. You could talk me into Foster Lawyer, but I do think the Trey Kaufman-Wren mini breakout is upon us. So I go with him as the Purdue alternate, which brings us to Rutgers. There was not a more clear-cut duo than Rutgers. But who do I go with for the primary all-star versus the alternate? If you know anything about me and how I digest and think about the game of basketball, it's not going to be tough for you to decide. Obviously, the 2 guys that I'm deciding between here are Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. It has to be those 2 guys for Rutgers, right? Durkak is kind of an analytics guy that the numbers love. Jeremiah Williams is a senior, is a guy Rutgers really likes, but hasn't put up the numbers, at least for me, to be considered. Lathan Somerville is a freshman. Dylan Grant is a freshman, up and down. And then it's a bunch of, just whatever for Rutgers. So I credit Harper and Bailey for what they've done to keep Rutgers' season afloat, and credit them for helping Rutgers come in and take an 85-82 win from Nebraska last night at Pinnacle Bank Arena. But is it Harper? Is it Bailey? For me, it's Harper. It's Harper, and I think it wasn't hard for me to make that determination. Ace Bailey is taking the most shots in the Big Ten Conference. He even missed a game. Okay, that's kind of ridiculous to think about, but it kind of speaks to the way Rutgers is constructed. I just love the way Dylan Harper plays basketball. We saw the takeover potential last night at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Scoring, he made some really nice passes as well. He has a 29.2 assist rate on the year versus just a 13.9% turnover rate, which is incredible for anyone, let alone a true freshman. Granted, a stud freshman who is more than likely to be a one-and-done player. Despite his high volume of shots as well, Harper's got a 56% effective field goal percentage and a 59% true shooting percentage, which factors in 2s and 3s. If the weakness in Harper's game is his long-range shooting, he didn't show it last night when he went 3 of 7 from 3. He's shooting 34.5% from 3 on the year and is a 72% free throw shooter. I don't think Dylan Harper is ever going to be a knockdown, consistent three-point shooter. The stroke doesn't look bad. It's just not necessarily what his game is. He's more of a slasher, below the rim, set guys up type of player, kind of Cade Cunningham-ish is the comparison I keep going back to, kind of lefty Cade Cunningham. But Dylan Harper is playing 76% of Rutgers minutes. That's essentially 32 minutes, 30 and a half, 31 minutes per game, I suppose, is how that would break out. That's nuts. Ace Bailey is playing 75% of Rutgers minutes. And again, that's despite missing a game. Those 2 guys are on the floor for Rutgers almost constantly. I kind of liked the sub patterns that Steve Peichel had, trying to overlap their playing time for stretches. But then there were a number of times last night where Harper and Bailey would replace each other in the Rutgers lineup. So it's your turn, my turn, but without that awkward on-court fit of, okay, so whose turn is it? Oh, I like my advantage, but it's your turn, so I can't take it. I think Steve Peichel did a really good job in managing Rutgers' rotation of its top 2 players last night. And for me, those are the 2 last kind of no doubt picks, honestly, for the rest of the exercise. So just going through the starters here, my 9 all-star selections for the Big Ten East team would be Mackenzie Mbako from Indiana, Derek Queen from Maryland, Danny Wolf from Michigan, Jaden Akins from Michigan State, Brooks Barnheiser from Northwestern, Bruce Thornton from Ohio State, Ace Baldwin from Penn State, Braden Smith from Purdue, and Dylan Harper from Rutgers. Okay, that's all fine and well. But what about the team? Let's put together the team. What's the starting five that I think would be out there against the West All-Stars that we'll get to next segment? This was a really interesting exercise. I think the one that jumped to mind for me first was Braden Smith, right? Because he's been that good this year and because he has the track record, he has to be in the starting lineup. I think if you're looking for team construction, you got to throw a wing in there. I would take what Mackenzie Mbako's done this year over what Brooks Barnheiser has done, especially because Mbako's play doesn't have the injury concerns. So I'll throw Mbako in there at the 3. I've got Danny Wolf in there at the 4. It's kind of his role for Michigan. I think he could play that role on the Eastern All-Star team as well. I've got Derek Queen at the 5. He was just so overwhelmingly good in the non-conference that it's hard for me to leave him out over some of these other guys. And then we're down to a bunch of guards, right? I kind of stacked the front court early on, knowing that there'd be a lot of guards later on. So it comes down to Jaden Akins, Bruce Thornton, Ace Baldwin, and Dylan Harper for one spot. At first, I was going to give it to Ace Baldwin. Big fan of his game. He gets it done on both sides of the court consistently for Penn State. Them being on the losing streak doesn't really play into it because Ace Baldwin hasn't necessarily been the problem. I'm a big Ace Baldwin guy. I mean, that's a guy that did it last year in the Big Ten, did it for a couple of years in the A-10 under head coach Mike Rhodes as well. But there's a freshman leading the conference in scoring. We just saw him last night. Without trying to be a prisoner of the moment, I do give the nod to Dylan Harper so far. A couple back-to-back 35-point outings in the Players Era Festival out in Vegas against some really good competition. And I think if you're putting a lineup together, he's a bigger lead guard than Ace Baldwin, who might be 6 feet, is probably a little closer to 5'10 and a half, 5'11, but Harper's listed at 6'5", 6'6", I believe. I think Harper's the better basketball fit, and I think despite Baldwin's track record and pedigree, I think Harper's been a little bit better so far this season. So my East All-Star team and lineup for the Big Ten, Dylan Harper, Braden Smith, Mackenzie Mbako, Danny Wolf, and Derek Queen. That's the East. We'll do the West. The other 9 teams will go through the tough decisions, the easy decisions, put together a starting lineup for the Western wing of the Big Ten and its All-Star team when we get back to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket.
Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstorats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started.
Hey there, fellas. It's your girl Jordan with Sartor Heyman Jewelry. Let's talk about trading up. Not what you're thinking. You could never trade her in, but you can trade up her stone if you like. Signify the growth of your love, the challenges you have overcome, or any part of your love journey by trading up her diamond. Whether it's been 5 years, 25 years, or 50, say it with a bling. Big love, big bling. We got you. Until next time, this is Jordan at Sartor Heyman Jewelry. Happy shopping, guys.
Wrestling fans, it's time to elevate your game, just like Stevens & Smith Construction does for your concrete needs. As your full-service concrete contractor, we deliver solid results every time. From singles to doubles, fighting for inside position to scrambling reversals, we know how to pin down quality and slam expectations. Stevens & Smith Construction, a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket, where Husker wrestlers bring you all the action. Don't stall. Stevens & Smith Construction is here to help you build a concrete foundation for the win. Check us out at www.stevensandsmith.com because stalling is a penalty and winning is the only option.
Right now, when you drive by Honda of Lincoln, you'll see more than 200 new Hondas and over 125 pre-owned vehicles. Hi, Charlie Stone here, and with me on the line is Andy Goodyear of Honda of Lincoln. Andy, how does it feel to have so many vehicles in stock again for your customers?
Charlie, it feels amazing to see how excited our customers are. They love the ability to see, test drive, and take immediate delivery of the exact new Honda they're looking for.
Do you have some good offers to talk about?
We sure do, Charlie. We're offering financing as low as 0.9% APR up to 72 months, or great lease rates on every new Honda. It's the perfect time to drive away in the new Honda you've been dreaming of.
How about pre-owned, Andy?
We have over 125 pre-owned and certified pre-owned vehicles to choose from. Just about every make and model with prices starting at under $10,000.
Maybe it's time you experience the best, the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill Road, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Hey guys, this is Lexi Rodriguez, former Husker and now League One volleyball athlete. League One Volleyball is bringing the action to Omaha with our first serve on January 24th, 7 p.m. at the Liberty First Credit Union Arena in Ralston. Witness history in the making as we take on Love Madison in our first ever home match. Visit lovboma.com for tickets. First serve January 24th. Be there when it all begins. That's lovboma.com for tickets to watch Love Omaha Volleyball. Go Big Red and go Big Green.
Looking for a financial partner that truly makes a difference? Modern Woodman is a member-owned fraternal financial services organization. We can help you plan for all stages of life, from protection to saving to retirement. We also offer member benefits, social activities, and volunteer opportunities to help your family and community.
I'm Sean Erickson, your Modern Woodman representative in Lincoln. Call me at 402-483-6515 to start the conversation.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Raising little ones is a big job, and you do your best to give them a good start every day. That means making sure they're well cared for while you're apart. You work hard, but it's not always easy to make ends meet. There may be help. Find out if you qualify for Nebraska's Child Care Tax Credit for working parents. You could be eligible for a credit of up to $2,000 per child on your next tax return. Learn more at nebraskachildcaretaxcredit.org. Brought to you by First 5 Nebraska and Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and we wanted to give a special shout out to all of our great customers, thanking you all for a record-setting year in 2024. Now let's get the new year rolling with some big savings. Right now at Cobble, we have some of the biggest discounts in the area with over $12,000 off list price or 0% APR on select new models. So stop on in the dealership or hit us up online at cobblecars.com to get true low country overhead in action. $12,000 off list or 0% APR right now at Cobble. So please stop on in or visit us at cobblecars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Back to the corner three on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
Welcome back into the corner 393.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Interact with the show on Twitter. I'm there at Austin_Oerman. It's scrolling down below me if you're watching on stream, or send a text 402-464-5685. We went through the Eastern wing of the Big Ten Conference, looking at their all-stars. Time now to flip over to the West. This group does indeed include Nebraska. We'll get to the Huskers here in just a minute. Again, doing this kind of alphabetically, but I guess I didn't put some of these teams in there. Anyways, we'll get to every team. Illinois all-stars. Very obvious one. Very obvious one. One of the best players in the conference, regardless of class, regardless of age, has been Kasparas Jakushonis. He has come in and shouldered a huge load for the Illini, both in terms of scoring and in terms of distribution, ball handling. He has been so good for them. He handles the ball the most of them. He only takes about 19.9% of the shots, which isn't tops on the team, but he finishes the most percentage of the possessions, either a shot, a pass, or a turnover, a foul drawn. with 25% of those possessions. He's a 6'6", 205-pound freshman. Missed a couple games with a forearm strain, but it seems like he's back and recovered from that. He's scoring from all three levels. He's shooting 59% from 2. He's shooting 42% from 3 and 87% at the free throw line. Getting to the free throw line at a decent rate. His assist rate is a 30% assist rate. Turn it over a little bit. But again, for a freshman lead guard coming over from Europe in his first taste of collegiate basketball action, not a whole lot to be concerned with there. Not an elite rebounder despite his size, but with everything else that Illinois has asked him to do, not really all that concerned about it. Then trying to find the next all-star. I still think Morez Johnson has a case coming off the bench. He's been really good for the Illini in his limited share of minutes. But I do think you have to look at maybe a Kylan Boswell, guy that transfers in from Arizona, has found new life in Champaign. Tomislav Ivisic has been pretty darn good, the younger brother of Zvonimir Ivisic, who followed Coach John Calipari from Kentucky to Arkansas. Trey White's been pretty good. Will Riley, as a freshman, came in and was torching nets early on. He has cooled off from shooting over 50% from 3 over the first couple weeks of the year, all the way down to 31.5%. So I wanted to go with Will Riley. I might have gone with him earlier in the season. Still definitely on the short list for all Big Ten all freshman team, but right now not an all-star consideration. I'm going to go with the Kasparis Yakushonis all-star nod with Tomislav Ivisic as the alternate here. Ivisic, 7'1", 255. He's shooting 37% from 3 while standing 7'1", 61% inside the arc, and also 77% at the free throw line. So Yakushonis was a pretty simple pick for me to make for the Illinois All-Star representative. Iowa, I think, also makes a lot of sense. I would give Peyton Sandfort the nod, then probably go with Josh Dix behind him. Minnesota, it's Dawson Garcia, Mike Mitchell behind him. For Nebraska, the pick, I think, is obvious as well. It's Bryce Williams, right? What Bryce Williams is doing for this Nebraska team is a pretty heavy workload, both on offense and what they're asking of him on defense. Trying to figure out the Nebraska alternate. I mean, I don't just want to cop out and say Juwan Gary, but Juwan Gary has certainly done more and been more consistent than Connor Sejan. Andrew Morgan has been solid, but his play doesn't scream all-star to me, and I can't point to an all-star moment like I maybe could with Juwan, his game-saving block, the way he played down the stretch at Creighton as well. I would look at, Raleigh Wooster hasn't been all-star level. Berke Buyuktanjel would be fun to have in an all-star game type of setting, but certainly hasn't put up those numbers, and that's really, I guess, the options for Nebraska. So Bryce Williams, a no doubt all-star for me. He's going to get some all Big Ten consideration. I don't think he's quite been first team all Big Ten good. Second team, you could talk me into it. I would say probably right now, but he can certainly help his candidacy with Nebraska's upcoming schedule, right? I mean, Maryland on the road, USC at home, and then going to Wisconsin before hosting Illinois to end out the month of January. It's a big stretch for the Huskers, who are still on that 3-game losing streak after last night. About halfway through the West All-Stars here, Wisconsin, I'll go with John Tonji. Kind of the story of the first half for them has been this guy, John Tonji, who starts his career at a mid-major, transfers to Missouri, kind of buried on the bench, doesn't do a whole lot, bounces back in a huge way to have, career best numbers, and I think especially inside the context of the Big Ten. I didn't expect this from John Tonji. I'm not going to lie. That's a guy that I thought was a little bit of an injury risk, that I didn't think was going to be nearly as good as he has been. I don't think he even played for Missouri last year. 8 games is all, but they don't even list his uniform on Sports Reference. But John Tonji right now, averaging a career high in points at 18, shooting a career best in terms of volume and consistency at the free throw line, 94%, 54% from 2, and even 35% from 3 would be the high water mark for him since his last full year at Colorado State, when he shot 39% from 3 on just about 5 attempts per game. He's about 4.5 attempts per game at 35% right now, but he's being asked to do more than he has in a couple years. Again, he was one of the go-to pieces of that Colorado State team in 22-23. Tried to make it work at Missouri, didn't go anywhere. I didn't expect this from John Tonji, but averaging 18 points, pulling down 5 rebounds, and even adding a couple assists per game, as well as about a steal per game. Omaha Central's own John Tonji, has been a pretty darn incredible player for Wisconsin so far. And I do believe that he deserves the nod as the all-star. Trying to figure out the next alternate then for Wisconsin, probably John Blackwell. Nolan Winter has averaged 10-6 so far this year. Crowell, the 7-footer at 10-6, maybe gets the legacy nod. Max Klesmit has been fine, averaging 10 points per game, doing his floor spacing thing. But I do think you go to the John Blackwell breakout. You saw moments of it last year from Wisconsin. He's their second leading scorer with 15 points per game. And it's one of the other facilitators, right, along with Tanji. But it's been through Crowell and Klesmit that most of the ball handling is going. Blackwell kind of as a secondary option there. Moving through the rest of the conference, USC, it's Desmond Claude with St. Thomas as the backup. For UCLA, I still give the nod to Kobe Johnson and then go to Tyler Bilodeau. This is not going to be a huge team for the West until we get down to these last two guys. Nebraska hasn't played these teams yet in Washington and Oregon, and it's their big men that I'm going to end up giving the nod to, starting with Washington's great Osobor. This is a guy that was at Montana State with Danny Sprinkle, followed him to Utah State, and is now at Washington with him. 23-24 Mountain West Player of the Year. All tournament team in 24 was also the 2023 Big Sky Sixth Man of the Year. He's from the UK, which I don't think enough people realize. 6'8", 245, not really a point forward, but will be asked to handle the ball a little bit for Washington, especially in the half court. Not a guy with a lot of shooting range, certainly not the volume from long range. In fact, this year, he's only taken 22 threes across Washington's 18 games, but he's knocked down 9 of them, which is a career best. His free throw percentage would tell you that's probably due to come down. He's only a career 63% free throw shooter. He's at 57% this year, despite taking the most attempts in the conference. But he is a voracious rebounder. He's gobbled up 103 boards so far, just about halfway through Washington's schedule. Also has 61 assists, 40 steals, and 11 blocks. Great Osobor is one of those just throwback players that is best on the block. You can bring him up to the high post, the nail at the elbow, run some stuff through him. You can isolate him there. He is a fascinating player to watch. He is a fun player to watch that's stuck on a pretty mediocre Washington team. Danny Sprinkle's a really good head coach, but I would recommend that if you haven't seen any Washington, I watched him not long ago give Purdue a scare in the first half. Washington's pesky. They're not good. I kind of see him in that Penn State range from last year, except that the difference is Great Osobor is in the post as their best player instead of on the perimeter like it is for Ace Baldwin at Penn State. Then for Oregon, this was another one that it came down to one of two guys, and I was finally pushed over the line by Isaac Trotter, who you'll hear from coming up in our next segment here during On the Block. Was it going to be Jackson Shelstad, or was it going to be Nate Biddle for the Oregon All-Star? Supreme Cook, as a senior, is playing pretty well as that kind of traditional power forward type of guy. He's been pretty solid, but it doesn't scream All-Star. TJ Bamba was a big get for them out of the transfer portal, not shooting it as well as you would like him to, but he's been a pretty reliable go-to scorer for them. Kwame Evans is taking certainly his fair share of shots. Keyshawn Bartholomew's fun. Brandon Angel is interesting to me. Jadarian Tracy off the bench is in consideration maybe for the glue guy conversation. But it came down to Jackson Shelstad and Nate Biddle. Jackson Shelstad is not using a lot of Oregon's possessions. And this is a guy that I thought people were waiting for as a scoring breakout. But Jackson Shelstad has really gone to the next level, I would say, as a playmaker. He's an undersized guard. Think kind of Peyton Pritchard-y, but Pritchard is a little bit bigger. Shelstad only listed at 6 foot tall, 180 pounds. Not the best shooter, but it's certainly come around as of late. I mean, he's up to 37% on the year despite starting the year cold. Struggling at the rim's been a little bit more of a finish, only 51% from 2, but a solid 86% at the free throw line. He's taking care of the ball, a 17.7% assist rate, but only a 10.5% turnover rate. He has been the quintessential caretaker of the basketball and has a great rapport with the big man who is finally healthy, Nate Biddle. 7 foot tall, 240-pound, traditional low post bruiser who's tried to expand his game out to the perimeter. That's not where he's best. When you ask me who Oregon's best player their most dominant player has been on the most consistent basis, you got to go with Nate Biddle. He's played in all 17 of their games. He made some huge plays down the stretch against Alabama to help Oregon win that game. On the year, he's converting 63% of his shots from 2-point range and 15 from 50 from long range from a guy that hasn't really dabbled in that is really not that bad. Just good enough to make an opposing big man maybe forget that that's a guy you're comfortable letting shoot because he can knock one down here or there. I mean, for being the highest volume, highest usage guy on Oregon's team, for him to be able to finish with the kind of numbers he is despite that volume is pretty impressive. So I give Nate Biddle the nod when it comes to the West All-Star team over his teammate Jackson Shelstad. So the West starting lineup for me will be Kasparis Jakushonis at the 1, Peyton Sandford at the 2, Bryce Williams at the 3. I'm going to go Great Osobor at the 4 and Nate Biddle at the 5. Desmond Claude was probably the next guy that I would have thrown into that list, and especially if you look at recent results. USC is playing some much better basketball right now than they were to start the year. That's a heavy transfer group and a head coach, Eric Musselman, who is just getting reacclimated to the West Coast. But I do still give the nod to Osobor and just how awesome he's been for Washington so far. So the lineups, which team are you taking? Dylan Harper, Braden Smith, Mackenzie Mbako, Danny Wolf, and Derek Queen? Or are you going Kasparis Jakushonis, Peyton Sandford, Bryce Williams, Great Osobor, or Nate Biddle? Those are the two teams, East versus West. I don't know. It's a toss-up, which I think these all-star games probably should be. I see takeover potential from Dylan Harper, Braden Smith, Danny Wolf. I see takeover potential from Kasparis Jakushonis for the West team as well. I think I like the fit of the West lineup a little bit better, but there's probably more frontline star power in the East. Here's what I'm going to do. We'll go to break. I'll fire up the interview that I had with Isaac Trotter during On the Block today. We'll talk some more Big Ten basketball, some Nebraska headlines, some Nebraska questions in there, give you a look around the rest of the conference. But again, get to my Twitter account at Austin_Oerman. Within the next couple minutes, I will have a Twitter poll up with these all-star teams. Who do you think would win? When we get back, it's Isaac Trotter of CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports from On the Block earlier today.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and we wanted to give a special shout out to all of our great customers, thanking you all for a record-setting year in 2024. Now let's get the new year rolling with some big savings. Right now at Cobble, we have some of the biggest discounts in the area with over $12,000 off list price or 0% APR on select new models. So stop on in the dealership or hit us up online at cobblecars.com to get true low country overhead in action. $12,000 off list or 0% APR right now at Cobble. So please stop on in or visit us at cobblecars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Looking for a financial partner that truly makes a difference? Modern Woodman is a member-owned fraternal financial services organization. We can help you plan for all stages of life, from protection to saving to retirement. We also offer member benefits, social activities, and volunteer opportunities to help your family and community.
I'm Sean Erickson, your Modern Woodman representative in Lincoln. Call me at 402-483-6515 to start the conversation.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
Step into healing at Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery. Our team of top-notch medical professionals turns pain into progress with state-of-the-art treatments and compassionate care. Visit prairieortho.com and discover the difference in quality orthopedic and plastic surgery services tailored to your unique needs. Your health matters, and Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery is dedicated to helping you thrive. Reach your full potential. Embrace a better tomorrow with Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery.
Raising little ones is a big job, and you do your best to give them a good start every day. That means making sure they're well cared for while you're apart. You work hard, but it's not always easy to make ends meet. There may be help. Find out if you qualify for Nebraska's Child Care Tax Credit for working parents. You could be eligible for a credit of up to $2,000 per child on your next tax return. Learn more at nebraskachildcaretaxcredit.org. Brought to you by First 5 Nebraska and Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
The electrical workers of Local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeyman electricians from $32.50 to $42.50 per hour with paid benefits. And if you're looking for a new career, they're hiring apprentices at $19.50 per hour with paid benefits. Call the office at 402-423-4497 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
Have you heard about Advanced Medical Imaging Surgery Center? Located at 7555 Pioneers Boulevard, Advanced Medical Imaging Surgery Center offers compassionate, patient-focused care and provides outpatient surgery services, making it possible to have non-emergency surgery and return home the same day. Advanced Medical Imaging Surgery Center specializes in cardiology, vascular radiology, orthopedics, pain management, and much, much more. Give them a call today at 402-261-1085 or online at amimaging.com.
Attention all wing fans! Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays, enjoy 89-cent boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.29 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today at 68th and O or in Williamsburg Village. Garage doors can break down or quit working at the worst times. At Doors Plus, they understand that a broken garage sometimes means repair and not replace. Sometimes, all you need to make your door like new again is a few bolts, realignment, or even new balance. Trust the pros at Doors Plus to handle your garage door repair the right way so you can get on with your busy schedule. Visit them online at doorsplusllc.com or give them a call at 402-590-5800. Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back to the corner three on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
This is the corner three with Austin Oerman. That's me getting you set for some high school basketball here in just a little bit. We have some more college hoops conversations to bring you. Isaac Trotter of CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports was gracious with his time today. He talked with me and Eric Strickland during On the Block. Here's that conversation. VIP line brought to you by Aloe Fiber, where they understand the importance of exceptional service with local heart. Second-time guest here on the program with 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. Isaac Trotter, I read his work, follow him on Twitter, definitely a must-follow. Isaac, first of all, how are you? Thanks for taking some time for us here, man.
Doing well. It's basketball season, so in the Big Ten, there's basically a game every day. So that makes my life a little bit easier, just because I know I'm going to be watching hoops pretty much daily. But yeah, it's been good. The Big Ten's good, and that's kind of fun. I think it's interesting to see how the Big Ten has kind of passed up the Big 12 and is probably the second best league in college basketball with a bullet at this point.
That's something that I don't know if I would have seen coming with some of the upper level teams in the Big 12. But if you look at the KenPom ratings, there's not many conferences in the last 2 decades better than this year's Big Ten has been, which, again, I wouldn't have seen coming before the year. A lot of questions surrounding Purdue, surrounding Michigan State, 2 teams at the top of the league, a lot of new coaches, a lot of new faces coming into the league. Thought it was going to be a strong league, a deep league, but not necessarily, a whole lot of, upper tier strength at the top of the conference when you look at the national scene. But Isaac, here we are, 15, 17 games into the season, and this is a historically great league. What do you think is contributing to that?
I think it's the pros, right? I think Kasparas Yakushonis for Illinois has certainly developed into a guy that might go number 3 in the draft, and I don't think a lot of people had circled him quite to that level. The Rutgers guys have obviously been good, even though that team hasn't necessarily been great. But Michigan has, someone come out of nowhere, Danny Wolf, who now looks like a first-round pick. Wisconsin's offense has been so much better than expected. Oregon finally gets a Nate Biddle healthy, and suddenly he's really, really good. It's kind of funny. It feels like the Big Ten has a lot of high-level talent now, and some of it was predictable, but other parts of it are guys kind of coming out of nowhere. So I'm kind of with you. As I kind of came into the Big Ten, it was like, hey, is there any Tier 1 national title contenders? No. Is there just a lot of really solid, good teams in the middle? Yes. I think I've changed my tune on it a little bit because a few of these teams have found some legitimate, like some of the best players in college basketball play in the Big Ten.
And we'll touch on some of those teams here throughout the segment. The game that we want to talk about, obviously being in Lincoln, is last night's Nebraska and Rutgers game. Let's start with the Nebraska aspects of things. I know when we last talked, you said Nebraska was in kind of that jumbled pack in the middle. Good team, maybe not a great team with some roster questions. What have you seen from Nebraska so far this season that you've liked, and what's maybe some cause for concern?
Let's start with the good. I think Bryce Williams has legitimately asserted himself as one of the best players in the country. Like, I can't find a stat that he stinks at. He's pretty much good at everything right now. He's making threes. He's really good from the mid-range. He's terrific from the free throw line and gets there a ton. His body has changed. He looks awesome. And I think that was something that was pretty predictable. But I do think that we've started to see a little bit of like, man, life without rink mask is a little bit harder, right? Like I feel like the spacing with this group isn't quite as elite as it was last year, just because they don't have a big yet that's really shot it well from three at a high volume. We've seen Berke Bogintinsel have a couple moments, right? Like Andrew Morgan can occasionally step out and hit a three, but they don't really have that five that can truly put pressure on the defense and open things up a little bit. So I don't think the ceiling for this Nebraska group offensively is super high or as high as it was necessarily last year. But when you still have Bryce and you still have Juwan Gary and you still have solid role players and you still have Fred Hoiberg, who is, one of the top 10 or 11 offensive coaches in the sport, depending on who you talk to, you have a pretty high floor offensively. I'm curious, though, how much they'll evolve defensively, because we've starting to see some pretty aggressive trends. Nebraska is big on limiting shots at the rim. Like, no Big Ten team allows fewer percentage of shots at the rim than Nebraska. But those low holds in their defensive coverage, where they're always having someone near the rim, like has really opened up open threes. And Nebraska's giving up a ton of threes. And when teams make threes, Nebraska loses, right? Like, if you look at the common denominator in the 5 losses this year, they just have given up teams are making double-digit threes at like a 40% clip, and they're open. And that's kind of the downside with this group. So I think they're solid. I still don't feel like I've changed my opinion on them all that much, but I wonder how much this defensive strategy is going to work when teams continue to bomb away. Maybe they get lucky and some positive regression comes back their way, but it's tough right now when Purdue is making literally every single jumper, and then Rutgers, the team that really struggles, makes every single jumper too.
This is Eric Strickland. Thanks for joining us again on the block. I just want to add on to what you said, because this is a carryover from last year as well. We saw a lot of teams that did that, but you can even go back to the NCAA game against Texas A&M. Texas A&M was known across the nation to be one of the worst three-point shooting teams collectively as a unit. And yet against Nebraska, with an understanding of the style that they were going to play, the same style that they're playing even right now today, you saw that team come alive, not only with the athleticism, but also with the three-point shooting. So it's a seeming issue that Nebraska's having, no doubt.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird, because it's like I feel like other teams have tried to do a similar strategy as well of limiting shots through them. Like, I like that game plan, but you kind of have to make up for it in other margins as well. Like, you have to be a defense that really turns teams over and an offense that doesn't turn the basketball over. And you really need to win the glass on both ends of the floor just to kind of win that shot volume game. Like, hey, we're going to take 10 more shots per game than you. So yeah, even though you might shoot more threes than us, like, we're going to take more shots and we're going to win it that way, win the math that way. And so far, like, Nebraska's not been that, right? Like, they've had some turnover issues pop up. They aren't a terrific offensive rebounding team. So it's nuanced, right? Like, it's not just like, oh, well, let's just stop teams from shooting threes. Like, part of it is we got to rebound a little bit better. Part of it is we got to cause more turnovers and turn it over less. And those things can start, reaping better rewards.
One more before we move into some other teams in the conference here on Nebraska. Obviously, there's plenty of season left to play. A lot of people here kind of freaking out about postseason chances, but I think it's too early for that. When you look at Nebraska, maybe the blueprint under Fred Hoiberg, certainly the floor seems to be raised, still a decent, a solid team. If there is going to be a next step in this program, is it going to be, do you think, recruiting better athletes, or maybe recruiting more specifically to a scheme and be more like an Iowa or Wisconsin, where you have a blueprint for a player you like, a way you play, and you stick to that?
I mean, I just That's a good point. For me, I look at the roster. I go, I think they need a few more elite at the top of the team. You know what I mean? I'm not sure if you can necessarily win in the Big Ten without like that tip of the top of the team, like that has an awesome guard. And Bryce is closer to a wing, right, than a necessarily guard. And I wouldn't say the point guard position this year for Nebraska has been a strength of this group. And you look in the league, it's like, all right, Purdue's winning and they have an elite point guard, and Michigan's winning and Trey Donaldson's been an awesome point guard, and Illinois is winning and they got an elite point guard in Kasparis Yakushonis, and Wisconsin's winning and they got an elite lead guard in John Blackwell, and Oregon's really good because Jackson Shelstad's really good. Like I don't think that's necessarily a big of a surprise. So I like the game plans. I like the high impact on like finding guys that can execute, bigs that can pass, shooters that can make on the move threes. I totally understand that. I think improving that recruiting of lead guards, whether that's in the portal or in the high school ranks, will probably determine just how high the ceiling can be in this league.
You can send the bill for your Nebraska fan therapy session at 1040 O Street if you want. Let's talk about the other team on the other side of this game last night for Rutgers. This is a team that really fascinated me in the preseason, Isaac, because of the 2 5-star freshmen and that just not being the Steve Pikiell identity, right? Only a 10-8 record, but we saw last night the Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey were the two best players on the floor. They weren't scared of the moment on the road in a good venue in the Big Ten. What's your read on Rutgers right now?
I think the narrative around them has been weird. It feels like, well, you can't win with 2 freshmen, and it's Dylan's fault and Ace's fault. And I just disagreed with that. Like, I think Dylan has been unbelievable this year. He hasn't hurt his stock one bit by going to Rutgers. Like, he is as good as any lead guard as I've seen in college basketball. And I've been watching a lot this year, right? Like, he feels like he can get to the paint whenever he wants. Terrific finisher at the rim, shooting it better. And Ace has started to come around a little bit as well, just starting to make more winning plays, understanding where he can get his shots, understanding how impactful he needs to be on the glass. Like yesterday against Nebraska, I thought that was one of his better playmaking games that we've seen so far this year. So it feels like Rutgers has gotten pretty darn good seasons out of Ace and Dylan. And I think it really is more about this supporting cast. That's the only reason that this team hasn't necessarily reached its expectations. They struggled with some of their transfer portal evaluations. They've had a couple guys that they brought in the portal that haven't been in the rotation at times this year. So I'm blaming it more on the other guys, not necessarily the top two, because I think a lot of people would have taken 19 and 7 from Ace. And, if you told me Dylan Harper is like the second best guard or the number 1 guard in the country, I would probably not fight you on that too much either.
Elsewhere, let's pause 10 quick seconds for station identification here on 93.7 The Ticket.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Elsewhere in the conference, weird loss to Minnesota on the road last night, notwithstanding. Michigan playing such a different style with the two bigs, with the complementary skill sets in Wolf and Golden. You mentioned Trey Donaldson. Are you surprised by what you're seeing from the Wolverines and Dusty May in year 1 in Ann Arbor?
I love what they're doing. I think they just need to keep sticking with the process. I think the process is good, even if the outcomes have been bad. And you look at some of the 4 losses, it's like they found ways to lose in some of the weirdest ways. Arkansas, they had a backdoor cut that just went out of bounds. Oklahoma, they had a 3-point lead late, and Jeremiah Fierce hits a 4-point play. Last night, Dawson Garcia from the parking lot hits a 40-footer to beat you. Wake Forest, they had opportunities to win that game late. So I think what they're doing is working. They obviously are awesome at the rim offensively, and they're really good at the rim defensively. That just gives you a really high floor. They create really good shots, and when they're not punting the ball out of bounds and turning it over, they get some of the best shots in college basketball. So I like this group in the preseason, but they're certainly better than I thought, and that's just because Danny Wolf is completely brilliant. Outside of the turnovers, some of the plays he makes are just wizardly, and the role players have been good. Trey Donaldson is really good. Vlad Golden looks like a completely different player than what he was early in the season, and if they continue to get better, I think they have as high of a ceiling as anybody in the Big Ten.
On the flip side of things, who's maybe been disappointing to you that you thought was going to have a better year in the Big Ten that's maybe not where you thought they would be at this point?
Yeah, I was all in on UCLA. I picked them to win the league, and I was ready to victory lap that in the middle of December after they beat Oregon and beat Arizona, and even the Gonzaga win late December, it looked really good. But they have really, the wheels have started to fall off a little bit with that crew lately. And maybe it is just some of the downside of the fires out in California. Maybe that's leaning on them a little bit, and you just feel horrible about some of those things. But on the basketball court, their interior play on both ends just hasn't been good enough. They don't get to the rim very much, and they get gouged at the rim defensively. And that's just a really tough combo with a slightly undersized front court. So I think some positive regression is coming for them. They've only shot like 20% from threes in the last 4 games, and their opponents are like 38%. Like, that's going to come around a little bit. So they're going to win some games, but I thought that team could potentially win the league, and they haven't necessarily played up to those expectations. Although Indiana is probably just as big of a disappointment as UCLA.
I will say, I do think UCLA is probably in better hands moving forward. I still think Mick Cronin is such a good fit for the Big Ten. I wouldn't be shocked to see UCLA turn it around like you're saying, but let's address the elephant in Assembly Hall. What is the biggest problem with Indiana of the multiple problems they're facing right now?
It just feels like there's not the culture there to play hard. And I think that's where it starts. And that's where it should probably end too. Like if you can't get up to play hard and play with fire and block out and chase offensive rebounds and want to do winning plays, like it's just not going to work. And I haven't loved their game plan either. There's been times where, against Illinois, they came out and played a ton of drop coverage with the big sitting in the middle of the floor. Illinois, like statistically wise, has absolutely torched that coverage all year long. I just don't understand the plan, right? Like same thing with Iowa. Like they're an amazing transition offense, and Indiana like just let them run and didn't try to take that away from them at all. So it just feels like the planning and the game planning is not putting the players in position to succeed. And then the players, I mean, it's on them too. Like I haven't loved Umar Balo's body language this year. I don't like Mackenzie Mathako's body language this year. Trey Galloway has struggled. Bryson Tucker and Ken Carlisle have really struggled. Even Miles Rice, a player I really liked in the portal nightly, has struggled this year. And it's just tough. It just doesn't feel like there's any bite from that group. And they don't seem to have a great plan on a nightly basis. And this is kind of the recipe for an Indiana team to kind of.
Who would you pick for? Couple more quick ones for you before we let you go here, Isaac. Right now, again, 7 games in to the league schedule for most teams. Who would you pick for Big Ten Player of the Year?
I think I have to go Braden Smith just because he's tremendous, but it's a great race, right? Like I think Kasparas Yakushonis from Illinois is going to be in that mix. Danny Wolf is going to be in that mix. John Tanjay from Wisconsin, or John Blackwell maybe if they get in there. Michigan State's kind of weird because they're so deep that they play 10 guys. So I don't know if the counting stats will be good enough for Jade Nakins to get in that mix, even though they could win the league. But I'll ride with Braden. I think he has one of the elite pull-up jumpers in college basketball now. He's completely unguardable. And the stuff he's doing as a distributor is like video game things, like 14 assists against Rutgers, 14 assists against Nebraska, like at a 12-assist game early in the season. Like it just feels like he's making things look way easier than they're supposed to be.
Coach of the Year, same thing. Who's your pick right now?
Well, Coach of the Year is you're basically just supposed to pick who like has exceeded expectations the most, right? I will go with Dusty May just because I believe coaching now is X's and O's, and that's a huge part of it. But roster building is a big part of it as well too. So May's roster building moves in his first year have been terrific. I think Brad Underwood probably deserves a mention in that conversation as well because they've replaced basically everybody, and their roster is as talented and has shown a ceiling I think very few teams in the Big Ten can rival. So I think it's a May Underwood conversation right now, although Tom Izzo will probably have something to say about that too.
And we're still a couple months out from the tournament, but if there's one Big Ten team, if you're going to call your shot on a Final Four team in the Big Ten, do you see one right now?
I do. I think Illinois can do that. That they have an unbelievable transition offense now, combined with an outstanding pick and roll offense with Kasparas Yakushonis. And if you look at historically, having an NBA lead guard, it kind of puts you on that inner circle of teams that can win the national championship. Illinois has that because Yakushonis is an absolute pro, and they have the best shooting front court in all of college basketball. Tomislav Ivicic and Ben Rickhouse are both shooting over 37%. I think they've combined for close to 73s together. So that type of potent offense from that front court is something that very few teams have, and they really guard too. Like they don't give up threes, they don't give up shots at the rim. They're really analytical with everything they do. They kind of win the math, basically making you to take long twos while they take a boatload of threes. And that's been a really good combination. So I think that Illinois team has a super duper high ceiling. And when Yakushonis has been in the lineup, they just torch teams. Like that road win at Oregon was insane. And they did the same thing to Indiana too. I think they've got plenty in the tank to win 4 in a row in March Madness.
Once again, our guest on the show, Isaac Trotter with 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. Isaac, let our audience know where they can find you, social media, where they can find your writing and your work.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Isaac_Trotter, where I will have Bryce Williams updates for you on like the number of shots he's made for the mid-range and at the lead clip. And then you can read my stuff on CBSSports.com or 247sports.com.
There you go. Isaac, as always, appreciate your time. Hope we can catch up again soon, man. You're a great follow. I love your insight. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
That's Isaac Trotter of 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports, our guest. Once again, find him on Twitter, Isaac_Trotter. That's going to put a bow on this edition here of the Corner 3. Don't forget, I do have that Twitter poll up at Austin_Oerman. Go find it. Go vote in it. Are you taking the best in the West or the beasts of the East when it comes to the Big Ten so far this year? At Austin_Oerman. Go give that a vote. Stick with us, though. Coming up in about 15, maybe 20 minutes, we'll have tip-off of high school basketball. Nick Sainer getting set up, getting ready to bring you the call. Looking forward to it as always. Been a great day here on The Ticket. We keep it rolling with high school basketball. For everyone here at The Ticket, don't go anywhere. We'll talk to you in a few minutes.